Bambu has just released their solution for an affordable and also a big 3D printer. It's called the A2L. And we are going to be testing it out on some of my newest functional 3D prints. We're also going to be testing one of my toughest prints to get good results on. We are going to be testing a new design in soft TPU. And we're looking at all the critical areas of this big bed slinger to see if Bambu has been able to make a bed slinger that can stand up against a Core XY. We'll be covering the options and the pricing as well. All that and more coming right up. My idea of a good 3D printer is one that I can use to print functional and accurate 3D prints. For a bed slinger, bigger isn't usually better, and that's mainly because of the movement of the Y-axis. The bigger bed is heavier, and as the print increases in size on that build plate on the bed, it also increases the moving mass, and that can affect the print quality. It's been a while since I've recommended bed slingers, so let's see what Bambu has done to allow the A2L to tackle this. They now have a granular dampening system inside of the top rail of the printer, and this helps to absorb vibration and keep it from resonating. I wanted to see what was inside, but after removing all the screws, I still could not quite figure out how to extract these pieces. In addition to the dampening, they also have active vibration compensation, but apparently this is a new method, so as the print size increases on the printer, it's able to measure the difference and compensate for it while it's actually occurring. And the next is that they've addressed an area which seems obvious when you see it, and that is how the bed is actually moved back and forth. They now have a very wide belt, similar to what you'd see on a motorcycle, just a little bit smaller scale. This is coupled with a motor shaft, which is supported on the far end, so it can be tensioned properly. The Y-axis motor is also bigger. It is still a NEMO 17 motor at 42 by 42, but the body of the motor is 54 millimeters long, which increases the torque, allows it to quickly change speeds and direction without skipping. So we're going to work our way up in difficulty, and the first print I wanted to make is for the time-lapse kit for this printer, and I'm going to be printing this in PETG, and it has a little bit of multicolor in there as well. Like the other A-series printers, this one can use the AMS Lite, but it also is a plug-and-play with the AMS 2 Pro, and since we're going to be getting into some humid weather and longer print times, that's what I'm going to be using for my testing. Bambu has also brought back the basic PETG, and personally I've always been a fan of this PETG. One of the biggest benefits of it is layer adhesion, but it also is one of the biggest drawbacks in that it likes to adhere to the nozzle. So let's see how well these parts print. This wasn't exactly a difficult print, but it is a functional print and it still looks good. And better yet, all the parts seem to come together well. This does require transparent PETG for the button instead of the red that I printed, and I will end up hooking this up and getting it working in a future video. I wanted to print our solution to one of the most common requests for our first Kickstarter, and that is a lid for these hexes. And we've been able to create a solution by designing a print-in-place technique. This will be a good challenge for the A2L because I have a gap of only 0.15 millimeters between moving parts. And the way that this works is that it is a hex tray for storage, and when it's flipped over, it also is a lid and it interlocks with the hex that's below it. What I noticed on this printer is that it is precise enough to print these parts, but while watching it print, the precision is just slightly below that of what you'd see on the Core XY printers for those tiny little interlocking dovetail pieces. That said, it is a good thing to test on a bed slinger because I'm going to tweak the design so that it works on all printers now. Overall, very good performance. The parts actually look really good, and this printer added some value to my testing as well. And we've also designed another part for our backers, and this one is called the Hex Nest. It provides a portable and storable solution for the hex style artwork. Now these are not complex parts, but they do need to fit snugly, and we'll be able to see if there's any changes required to these prototypes. This is printed in black PLA, and each piece of dial art should slide in with just a slight amount of resistance, and they do seem to be doing that, although I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit. There is one problem though, and that's that they pass right through. So I'm going to reprint these again, but with a stop at the bottom. So you can push the ones out that you like to use, and it's handy because you can keep this right beside you at the table, and then when you're all done, you can put them back in. And each of these can store inside either the base of the towers or inside one of the storage hexes as well. Much more organized, tidy, and easy to use. An open printer means that prints are much more prone to warpage, and I tested this in my last video on the A1 Mini, and adding a makeshift enclosure using filament boxes and just a towel on the top helped a lot. So for this printer, I have a heavy duty bracket with dual large sliding dovetails for this test. And this one is tough because it has a minimal amount of surface area in contact with the bed. Now I am using glue stick for all of my prints so I can prevent any failures. And with this printer being so open, bed heating is going to be even more important. This bed maxes out at 80 degrees Celsius. So I can't exactly do an apples to apples test, but we can at least do the test at 80 degrees Celsius and see what happens. So it does heat quickly, taking only about 3 minutes to get to temperature, and then I let it soak for another 4 minutes to take the measurements. And the bed heating is quite good, as you can see, having very good averages and very good corner temperatures as well. It uses a little bit different technique for heating than the other printers, and that seems to have helped here. Very good results considering that this printer is completely open to my shop. The bracket here is being printed in basic PETG, and PETG is better than other filaments for warpage, but I print heavy duty and these parts are going to want to pull away from the build plate, so let's see if that happens. So it looks like that's exactly what's happened here. Luckily, it wasn't that much, and the critical areas of the print are up much higher, and they're unaffected by that warpage. So for parts like these, printing inside of any type of enclosure will help a lot. Adding a brim alternatively or adding mouse ears will also help. So this is just a prototype and it needs to be reliably printable on every printer, and I will be making some adjustments to make that happen thanks to the results on this printer. For my toughest print to get good results on, we are testing my Anaconda filter design. I'll be printing this from white basic PETG. This print usually has trouble on the inside, which I think is related to poor cooling, but this printer being open has excellent cooling, and I'm curious to know whether we'll have those same issues. Now, because the base is round, I'm not really concerned about warpage away from the build plate on this one, even though again, it is printed heavy duty. And we can see on the inside that the sharp upper areas, which are critical, don't really look that good, even though we have probably the best cooling on this printer that we could have. There is another issue that I've been meaning to solve too, and that is the coil shape itself. It limits the amount of water that can come in at any point because it all tends to funnel down to the same position. So I've decided to change the design, and by doing that, I've also been able to print it all in one big piece. The supports are a little bit annoying, and I'll continue to work on finding a way to avoid that, but overall I'm glad that I tried this filter on this printer because it told me that the problem really wasn't cooling and that I needed to look for a different solution, and now we have an overall better final product for it. So I recently bought a wood chipper, and it needs a flap to prevent wood from shooting back out the chute. So I designed a part that's going to be made from the most flexible TPU that I have, which is 90A. And at first I tried feeding it through the AMS high temperature, but there was a little bit too much resistance, so I was getting under extrusion. So I ended up top loading it on the spool holder that mounts to the top rail, and that worked far better. Now I still had a little bit of an issue because it didn't seem to like the overhang angle that I chose. I did make one mistake though, and that's that I traced the shape with a pen and then I forgot to account for an offset. I should have measured the part on the chipper itself to confirm. So I will make an adjustment and then reprint it, but otherwise it looks great and I think it should do the job really well. So this printer prints flexibles in the top mounted position, and one thing that's nice is that they're really easy to load on this printer as well. There are some Easter eggs on this printer as well. It's not just a printer, it's also a cutter and a plotter. So we can remove the front cover and this piece that rotates as well. And now we can use the same accessories that we can use on the H series of printers, and it uses the identical size cutting mats as well. Unfortunately, it is not compatible with the laser module, but it is still useful if you're into making decals and that type of stuff. The A2L has the size, it has the flexibility and modularity. The openness of the printer is really nice compared to the enclosed printers as well. It's super easy to work on this printer. It's also quiet. It's also really fast, especially when starting a print. The price point is excellent. In the US, at the time of recording this video, the printer is as a standalone $469 US. That actually includes shipping, but doesn't include the tax. The combo price US is $569, again, includes shipping. I've also asked, and it seems like there will be an option to choose the AMS2 Pro at some point, which is the one I would recommend because that saves needing to keep your filament dry and having to remove them and then store them while you're not using them. So because the max temp is only 80 degrees Celsius, this printer is a PLA printer, PETG and TPU friendly printer. ABS or similar are not really recommended. No enclosure means that if you're in a dusty shop like mine, your printer will get dirty on the build plate and also on the moving parts. And even though the bed heating is very even, you can't really get away from some parts wanting to warp. So I think it's still a good idea to have even a makeshift enclosure, a mini tent, or anything that you can raise the temperature a little bit and keep the drafts down. If you're worried about the nanoparticles of plastic, it's a good idea to pair this printer with an air purifier or again, have it inside of an enclosure. Something else to keep in mind too is that this printer needs quite a bit more space than the actual footprint itself. It requires space at the front and behind as well. So if you plan on getting one and want it against the wall, you might consider turning it sideways to get it as close as possible and not have to worry about that extra clearance that you need. There is still a live view camera, but it's not quite as good as the ones on the enclosed printers, both the position and also the quality, but you can still check on your prints and see what's going on. The hot end is the same type that's used on other A-series printers. It is quick swap and it works well, though I would prefer them all to match. It is, after all, still an A-series printer, so it makes sense that it matches the rest of them. The screen I've found isn't quite as big nor as responsive as their Core XY printers, and it seems to take a little bit longer for prints to upload to the machine as well. I do print larger parts on occasion, or I want to print a lot of smaller parts at one time, so the extra size is going to be useful. So for the best results with this machine, you have to use a glue stick and get your printer inside of something. I think my top picks are still enclosed printers, but overall the A2L is a very good printer for the price, and if you need the big build volume and the H series printers aren't quite in the budget, this one is a great alternative. Thanks to Bambu for sending the A2L for me to test out. I hope this video has helped you to decide if this printer is right for you. Thank you to my patrons for helping to support this channel, and thank you for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.